You know that I live in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis has been in the center of a lot of news lately, particularly because of the ICE occupation that we had in January and February and into March of this year. And one of the things that happened when ICE was here was they decided to stage a lot of their operations in parking lots of Target stores. And Target stores didn't say no. They didn't say yes, but they didn't say no. They decided to take a very neutral stance. And it was a very, very unpopular decision. The other thing that they hadn't really thought through is that Target is Minneapolis based. So if you're going to piss off a community, you should probably not piss off the community where you are physically located. And people started boycotting Targets. There were protests and sit-ins at Target stores. It wasn't just the staging of the parking lot. It was also that they were allowing ICE to come into the stores and take employees and weren't doing anything to stop it. One of my favorite boycotts is because salt melts ice. People were going into Target stores and buying up all the salt and then bringing it back and returning the salt, which just clogs up the whole system, So that was one of the ways that people here have resisted. I have wanted, since I've been in Minneapolis, to be really forward about the ways that I resist the regime, to resist the capitalism and the billionaire class, the Epstein class, and all of the things that we've sort of as a country have come to some awareness about. And it's not particularly feasible for me to regularly go out and chase ICE down or be present at the protests where there's tear gas. I have a little guy who I'm the only one who cares for him. If I got arrested, it would be really, really bad. But I've been tempted. I've been really, really tempted. And the reason is that I don't feel like I can just sit around and do nothing. So when all of this happened with Target, I made the decision to stop shopping at Target, which was a huge thing for me because I was like a Target super user. I had Target groceries delivered in once or twice a week. I got all my toiletries from Target, and now I've had to find other ways to purchase the things that I need for my house. And it's been a challenge because Target was so easy.
I don't have Target where I live, but I feel like there are two things that Target does that I would want to protest. One of them is that they really, really make it easy. They make it so easy that it's almost like a trance that one is put under, that you need all the stuff that's at Target. Because I shop at Walmart right now, and I could do an aisle by aisle, and doesn't have that same sort of calculated trance to get you to buy a bunch of stuff. And then the second thing is it really has reduced its DEI significantly. So I think those are both, and because we're shopping there, that's feeding all of the capitalism.
I have a friend that works for Target corporate. And when I was talking with her about my decision to stop shopping at Target, it was really a contentious conversation because her opinion was that the DEI initiatives were actually harming Target's ability to staff the corporate office the way that they really wanted. I don't believe that. I think that the stories about white men that were passed over because they had to fill quotas, I think are anecdotal and not statistically accurate. But I understand the sentiment coming from this friend, and the DEI initiatives being rolled back last year is definitely one of the reasons why I decided Target was on my no-no list. Recently, and I would say at the recording of this, it's early April, about a month ago, so early March, Target decided to introduce their new initiatives rolling out for 2026. And I think that it was an effort to try to win back the customers that they've lost because of such bad PR. Now, interestingly, this friend of mine, when I said that I was going to stop shopping, first of all, was mad because she wants to be able to retire from Target someday. And if people like me stop shopping at Target, then people like her could potentially lose their jobs. So I was like, yeah, I get that, but we got to do something. I got to do something and I got to start somewhere. But then the other thing that she was concerned about was that she didn't believe that my boycotting a corporation was going to make legislative difference. She said, corporations don't run the government, so why would you be wanting to roll this back? And I wanted to say they absolutely run the government, especially now. Corporations have a huge influence on the government. And if the corporations are hurting because of policies, they will fight to get those policies changed. So my boycotting of Target is an effort, yes, to get Target to pay attention, but also to get the country, the regime to pay attention. Because the way that you make change is hit people in the pocketbooks, especially in a capitalistic society.
This is one of the purposes of the protests. I know that some people say that the protests in and of themselves don't do much, and they actually do. The watching, the witnessing, the influencing our legislature, that does that thing. But the other main purpose of a protest is to get everybody aligned on the same page so that when we need to invoke a movement, we're all ready to do it and we're all ready to have that movement. And I believe this boycotting or reducing of shopping at Target was a huge movement that was facilitated by all of us coming together in the protests and in social media.
We had a general strike back in, I think it was in February, when we were protesting ICE and at the same time protesting the regime. And I remember the same criticism, which is one day of general strike held in one city is not going to change anything. But the intent of that one strike wasn't to change everything. It was to get us to be able to practice that muscle of collective protesting, of organizing, because as a country, we've sort of atrophied that muscle. We don't use our ability because we haven't needed to for such a long time. We haven't used our ability to gather and to come together and protest. Now that it's becoming necessary to do that, we aren't going to just announce a general strike that's going to start on such a day and it's going to last forever until it works without any practice at all. And so all of these efforts, even though by themselves they may not feel like they're moving us in a direction, they're absolutely us coming together and practicing and using this muscle so that when the tipping point happens, we are aligned and we are ready.
I'd like to go back a few moments to what your friend said as an employee of Target, saying that when you're not shopping at Target, you're actually affecting her future. And this got me angry because the reality is corporations, and when I say corporations, I mean the rich people, the rich men who are running the corporations, and sometimes they're women, but let's be honest, it's mostly men. The rich men who are running the corporations are actually using the frontline employees as a shield by saying, if you hurt Target, you're hurting your community. You're hurting these people first. I'm not going to feel it for a very, very long time. You're hurting these people first. And that's just using people as a human shield so that they can keep up doing whatever they want to do. Is just, it's angering.
I was talking to Mom about this at lunch today, and she had the same approach, which is that there are people in Target stores right now who are just trying to make a living. And my thought is that those people aren't making a living right now with the disparity between the people at the top and the people at the bottom. The people at the top need to have the pressure put on them, on their pocketbook, on their bottom line, on their profits. And one of the things that we need to be demanding as consumers is not just the DEI initiatives. It's not just the fighting back against the regime, but it also includes the demand that people who work at Target can work full-time and have a livable wage, which they currently aren't doing. And if we were to only put that onto the employees to fight to make that change, it would never happen. It takes both the employees and the labor unions and also the consumer base boycotting on these grounds to actually get the attention of the people at the top and make them make the change.
Something else your friend said struck me quite strongly as well, and that is all of the white men who are being passed over in favor of other people who are less qualified. I'm shocked that anyone in 2026 would have that kind of attitude. This is something you hear from the 1960s, maybe the 1970s when it started to change, but by whose criteria are the white men superior in skill and experience? I would question that.
I did actually question that in that conversation. I said, okay, let's say that that's even true. Let's say that one of your bosses or somebody higher up has explicitly told you that they passed over a man, a white man that they wanted to hire because their quota said they had to hire someone else. I said, first of all, the quotas aren't about hiring, the quotas are about opportunity, giving people opportunities. But secondly, the person making that judgment call is your white man boss.
Right.
And I said, if we rolled back those DEI initiatives, in the hopes that maybe the white men bosses would still continue to give opportunities to Black women, to Native American women, to Asian men and women. And like, I'm not feeling the love. Like, I just don't think that we can trust that those white men bosses are going to continue to offer opportunities if they're not kind of like forced to at least offer the opportunity. And that is all that DEI is about. It's not about quotas, and it's about opportunity.
I could even be very generous to say, yes, maybe there's a white man who's more qualified. However, he's more qualified because he had better educational opportunity, he had better vocational opportunity, he had better nutrition, all of those things that our society has set up to make that one better. I don't believe that they're actually going to be better, but they've had so much more opportunity to be better that to me it's equalizing the opportunity, as you say, not hiring people because of what they look like.
And those white men that didn't get those jobs are going to turn right around tomorrow and get an even better job. They have opportunity in every sector of this country. They have more opportunity than the rest of us. The thing that concerned me most about the conversation with my friend was the internalized misogyny and internalized racism a little bit.
Right, right.
Just that she believed that that was true. It's concerning. And I mean, like you said, in 2026, you would hope that this is not a reality, but I don't think we've evolved as far as we would like to believe that we have evolved.
If you're hearing this from a woman, even, it's shocking, and it just lets me know where we actually are as a society.
We've got a long, long way to go. And that the messaging that's coming out on news outlets and social media and even independent media, depending on which one you follow, is working.
Everybody has the responsibility to diversify their sources. If the sources are not diverse, whether you're listening to only left or only right or only centrist, then you're not doing enough. People have to listen to diverse sources, at least to get some vision of what reality is, or position themselves to be able to choose which reality they align to, not just the one that they already are favoring.
One of my favorite places to go, and no, we are not sponsored by them, but if you want to sponsor us, Ground News, we would be more than happy to be in conversation. So I have an app called Ground News, and it rates news articles that are coming out, who's reporting on them, the level of factuality, and whether those organizations lean left or lean right, and blind spots. So it will tell if there are stories that are being reported primarily on right-leaning outlets or centrist outlets and not on left-leaning outlets. That's a left-leaning blind spot. And then I would want to read those articles to see what it is that my news outlets are not wanting me to know about. So I've loved using the Ground News because it forces me to look at my own blind spots. If everybody was doing that, we would have more to talk about, and we would probably be more on the same page and aligned with things that we currently think we're so far apart. I don't think we're always really that far apart, because even the blind spots that I sometimes read about don't offend me. They're just news. And I wonder a little bit sometimes why none of my news outlets are reporting on it, because it's not in favor of the right. It just is a news piece that the left doesn't seem to think is important to report on today.
So here's a major problem with where we are as the U.S. world right now, is that I would bet that sort of the MAGA population would assign the ground news ratings of different news sources as itself a leftist tool.
Of course they would.
The fact that someone's trying to be unbiased, that means you're left. And that's so skewed. That's so skewed from reality. I don't like that at all. So I like some other sources. I like to listen to sources from outside the US. So I know that all of these sources have their own bias and their own country's flavor of how news goes. But I love Al Jazeera because it's just so unaffected by US politics. I like the CBC, I like the BBC, I like very much United States independent newscasters. So Jen Psaki has a show, Aaron Parnas, the News Girl, the Politics Girl, all of those are independent, as unbiased as they could possibly be, even though when they report on the news in a factual way, they sound left. They're not. They're just reporting the facts, and the facts make it sound left.
I don't know if I totally agree that they're unbiased. They're not unbiased.
We're getting into semantics here because they're clearly emotional about what's going on, but I don't know that that leads to bias. I think they're reporting facts and real consequences, and it sounds like bias, but I don't think that is.
I think that those reporters, because those are all the same people that I listen to. If you're talking about a bias, meaning that you're going to see things through a particular lens, they're biased. If you're looking at bias as how much you're willing to lie, then no. But I don't think that's what bias is. I think bias is the lens through which you view the story. And everybody has some kind of a bias.
Everybody.
Which is why I like, so like the ground news isn't reporting the story as much as it is summarizing the other outlets that are reporting the story across the board. So that's part of why I think that they're probably one of the least biased, because they are drawing from the variety of sources. Not to rain on your parade, but
no, I don't think we're disagreeing
Aaron
at all on
Parnas
this.
is not unbiased.
I don't know. I think if we really looked at what he's saying, he's reporting what's going on without too much color. Honestly, I think that's the case, and I think we're so conditioned to think that you have to not know what that person's beliefs are or leanings are in order to be unbiased. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, okay. Probably agree to disagree on this one.
That's
I don't
fine.
think it's a problem. I don't mind that my favorite sources lean left. But I think it's important to acknowledge it. For me, it's important for me to be like, yeah, I know that, when I'm watching Midas Touch, they fucking hate Trump. They just do.
So I don't know that it's biased to hate Trump. I think that that's really rational.
Okay, I think you're right. I mean, I think you're right. What you're talking about is semantics.
Yeah, it's semantics, right? So I think we're both in a very similar position, just slightly different terminology about it. And on top of that, while we know that all of those sources that we look at that are, what you're calling biased, that are clearly left-leaning outlets, we don't limit ourselves to those. And I think that's the difference.
There's another factor in this. There is an app, also a website called Ad Fontes, and it measures not only left and right, but it also measures accuracy and inaccuracy. And so it's like a square grid. So it'll be like, this leans really far left, but factually it's way up here, or this leans really far right, but factually it's a little bit. So you can kind of measure not just what I would consider bias, which is left and right, but also factuality, which is top and bottom.
Yeah, I guess I was putting bias on the x-axis instead of the y-axis, but it could be either way. So you and I don't work at Target. There's not a whole lot we can do from inside as employees. So what power do we have to make a difference in a movement toward our societal goals?
If you are liking the content, please like and subscribe, comment, and invite a friend to listen in. Thank you.
So what power do we have to make a difference in a movement toward our societal goals?
I think shopping elsewhere is a really huge first step. It reminds me of a story of not too long ago. I was having a conversation with a woman who belonged to a very small church. And she was lamenting the fact that she felt like she wasn't doing very much and that she belonged to a church that was too small to have the kinds of dollars that the mega churches have to actually make a big influence on the world. And I'm not talking about one of these evangelical white nationalist churches. This is one of the more progressive, liberal, like justice oriented, LGBTQ plus friendly churches. But she was lamenting the fact that the church was just too small to do much. And I said, did you look at the bulletin? Like, this church, for as small as it is, has more of an impact on the community than a lot of the much, much bigger churches in the area, because that's what they do. That's who they are. They're social justice oriented. They will do things like sock drives and like donating money to their local schools, or they'll do events for the children in the neighborhood. I mean, they are like on the ground out in the community all the time. From this woman's perspective, it wasn't enough because they didn't have a lot of dollars behind it. And I said, you have to look at what you can do and what you are doing. And even though the church is small, it has having a huge impact because it's doing what it's good at and it's doing what it can. I feel the same way about shopping. Like, I really thought at first when I decided not to shop at Target that it was going to be like, really? That's your contribution? Well, first of all, let me tell you, it was so hard. And I'm still kind of salty at Target that it's made it much more difficult and more expensive for me to get my daily life done. But then when this news article came out about a month ago, and it just kind of came across my feed again recently, it made me realize that we're actually making a difference. Target is actually changing what it's doing because of the boycotts.
You think it's because of the hurt, or because there's someone high up who wants to do the right thing, or a little bit of both?
Not that second one.
No.
No, I don't think that the people high up want to do the right thing. I really, truly, the people who have the power to make legislative and corporation-wide decisions don't give a fuck about doing the right thing. What they care about is doing enough of the right thing so that it looks like they're doing the right thing so that they can fool their customers into supporting them.
And they want us to come back.
They want us to come
So
back.
they realize that the dollars that you were spending there, they wanted those dollars.
They want those dollars. So interestingly, a couple months prior, I saw a news article come across that one of the things that Target wants to do is it wants to crack down on the dress that their employees have been coming into the stores with. So the dress code has been pretty lax. It's basically wear a red top and wear like something like khakis on the bottom. And I have seen over the last few years that those red tops get more creative, and at Christmas time they'll have like Christmas decorations on them, or they might be sweatshirts, but they're always red, or at least some version of red. So when I found out that Target was going to crack down on the employees, it kind of made me more pissed off, because the reality is I didn't stop shopping at Target because that employee had a red sweatshirt and that one had a red shirt. What I thought was, in this moment when your customers are saying to you, you need to be more aware of the things that are happening on the ground. You need to be more aware of the diversity of your customer base. You need to be more aware of the lack of money going to your employees. And the thing that you want to do is make their jobs suck more. Like, this is the wrong thing in this moment. They're totally tone deaf. They thought that those of us withholding our dollars give one shit about what kind of red shirt their employees are wearing. If you want to make a difference, give your employees more pay and more flexibility in what they wear. If you're having a problem because you think that your stores aren't looking fancy enough, then tidy up the aisles, whatever. I promise you, your employees dressing the way that they're dressing is not causing you money. I'm just saying, it's not costing you money.
The frontline Target employees are part of us. They're with us.
Yeah. Cracking down harder on them is not the good look.
I
It's
remember
not
a
a good look.
time not that long ago that you could get a black Santa in a wheelchair from Target. There was a whole section on diverse hair care, a whole section. You have different styles of hair, different curls, different thicknesses. You can get your hair care products here and you know where to look for them. And as far as I know, all of that's gone,
Or greatly diminished.
diminished. There was a variety of Barbie dolls. It was
Oh,
it
yeah.
was moving so much in the right direction, and I just feel like it just has stopped.
So I think a couple things happened with Target. I think one thing that happened was when they started rolling out more explicit product lines that were friendly to gender fluid communities, to communities of color, to women, they got enough backlash from people who are more conservative, and they listened to those voices. Even though I don't really think if they had given it a little bit of time that they probably would have seen that really hit their pocketbook.
Right.
I don't mean to overgeneralize, but I don't really feel like those conservative voices are going to actually put their money where their mouth is. I don't think that they would withhold their dollars because activism is kind of just not really their thing. So they're very loud, but I don't know that they're necessarily very active. Then when these DEI initiatives got rolled back and they started to pull those product lines, now you're starting to really piss off the people that actually have a desire to move to action. So I think that was one of the things that happened. But I think that the second thing that happened that really made it difficult for Target within this past probably, 15 months was the new regime made it extremely clear that they were going to make the lives of the institutions and corporations miserable if they didn't obey in advance. And so a lot of the schools, a lot of the government agencies, and a lot of the corporations started to fall in line with the demands of the regime because they were scared of the dollars. They were scared of losing the support and the dollars. But what Target is finding is that the power is in the hands of the people. And when we come together and say, yeah, no, enough's enough, we don't want to do this anymore, I think that there's going to be more power in the way that we spend our dollars than there is in the threat of a regime that's just gone like batshit crazy.
We've seen a couple of MAGA style or right wing style protests, and one of them comes to mind is when Budweiser partnered briefly with Dylan Mulvaney, the lovely transgender woman, lovely woman, just say that. The right wing freaked out about that because Budweiser belongs to the conservatives. Anyway, they bought a whole bunch of Budweiser as protest and then destroyed those cans. Like they bought a bunch of the
Yeah.
stuff. That's not the most
Yeah.
effective protest.
And I promise you that if Budweiser was the drink of choice for a lot of those people, then they went right back the next week and bought some for drinking.
Right. It was a statement, not a protest, and the statement didn't affect the corporation at all.
But this is.
Right.
This is affecting it.
Right.
So, can I real briefly go through some of the initiatives? There's 4. Okay, so this is right off of the Target website. And the title of this news release, which was released on March the 3rd of 2026, Target outlines strategic plan for a new chapter of growth in 2026 and beyond. And I'm just going to skip down to the strategic priorities. The first one is to lead with merchandising authority by setting trends with differentiated, culturally relevant assortments that win in style, design, and value. So what I take this to mean is this is them saying, whoops, we pulled a bunch of products that were diverse and representative, and we're going to try to sneak those back in.
Culturally relevant is a great term to avoid any kind of MAGA screening.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm not going to... I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Culturally relevant is words within an article, which is within a website, which they're never going to read.
Oh, no, you're totally right. It's also really
it's
benign.
words.
It's benign because it could be interpreted many different ways. I think we are interpreting it in the most positive way.
I think so too. And also, I'm doing this piece out of the Target website itself because I want to be accurate, but the reporting from a number of outlets that are summarizing and interpreting as they are reporting are reading it the same way. Number 2, elevate the guest experience by investing in digital discovery and the in-store experience while strengthening loyalty and engagement. Okay, so what I see this, the first one, elevating the guest experience by investing in digital discovery, sounds to me like we're going to make our AI advertising on the app even smarter. That's what that sounds like to me. And then the in-store experience, I think, is one of the reasons why they are trying to crack down on the clothing of the employees. But I'm telling you, that's not it, y'all. That's not it.
I don't think the in-store experience is an issue at all. I think they came out of a corporate boardroom that was not in touch with the actual store.
I've seen a few pieces of reporting that have said that Target used to be this like design dream and you walked in and you felt it was magical, and now even customers are starting to recognize that it's not all that and more. I don't agree. I think just by nature of it's been around forever, it doesn't feel new and novel, but none of the Target stores that I've walked into feel decrepit or run down or crowded. That was another comment that a lot of the news articles commented, that people were saying that Target got more crowded, like the aisles were too close together and the clothing was all squished up on top like you'd get at Walmart or Fleet Farm, which is really annoying, I just have to say. But I haven't noticed it in Target.
What's a Fleet Farm?
Fleet Farm is like, do you know what a Menards is?
Yeah.
Okay, so Fleet Farm is like a farmer Menards.
Okay, adorable.
So it's Menards, but also it has the whole like gun and ammo hunting section, and then it's got the whole like, here's where you can buy your feed for your horse section.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
The third one is accelerate technology to help teams move faster and create more personalized, joyful experiences for guests. I think that this one comes from the criticism that lines were getting really long, that they were understaffed. And y'all, you're understaffed because you don't fucking pay your employees. Not because the technology isn't there. It's because you're not taking care of your people. That's why. This is, if you haven't heard anything yet, I'm telling y'all, take care of your people.
This number 1, increasing tech for the joy of the guests, seems like a bit of a miss, because the personal touch is what we like about Target. So investing in technology like a robot cashier or more self lines or something like that, I think that's a miss. We want the people. We want the people to be cared for, your employees to be cared for.
I think they have a really good balance right now of self-check and people check, so that when you do just grab 3 things and you want to go out, you can just go do that. But if you really want that extra, like just let someone else take care of it, you can do that too. Now, both of them are too slow. But if they both were faster, there's a good mix. Fourth one is strengthen team and communities by investing in training and career growth for teams and building on Target's long-standing commitment to communities. I don't know if that one's trying to get at like the larger community, like becoming more invested in the people who live around where a Target is, or if they're talking about, I mean, they said training and career growth for teams, which could be more like coming down harder on your employees to do better. And I think the employees are doing great.
Why won't they try to improve the career paths of individuals? Why do they keep saying teams? That's interesting.
That is interesting. I think that is probably trying to speak into existence loyalty among employees.
Okay, I think you have to work harder at that. And it's interesting how they're concentrating this number 4 on teams, which are the internal employees, and communities, which is the place where the store exists. I wonder how a Target can enhance a community. I think there are lots of opportunities there.
So Target has been known to invest dollars back into the communities, into like sporting teams or, shelters. So I know that is a part of what they've already been doing. Maybe they're wanting to do that a little bit more. And it's interesting because it kind of brings back to the second one. The second one's ended with, while strengthening loyalty and engagement. of guests.
Mhm.
So investing in your communities maybe isn't even about helping the community as it is about building loyalty within your community. Because if you know that your dollars are going to go back into community, you're going to want to spend more there.
So it's a matter of what's the goal and what's the tactic. Is the goal to strengthen the community? No, I don't think so. I think the goal is to strengthen loyalty, and you do that by the tactic of strengthening the community.
Yeah, I kind of think so. I mean, unfortunately. But I will give them one thing, that if they're willing to make some of these changes, despite the motivation, if these changes are good for the community, then let's at least go somewhere.
Yes.
So then we get back to the question that you posed a little bit ago, which was, how do we resist the billionaires and the regime? How do we use our dollars to do that? I don't know if you only limited it to dollars, though, when you asked the question.
Let's talk about how to limit our dollars. Because honestly, we decide where our dollars go. And unfortunately, the corporations have set up that the easiest way to spend our money, the easiest way to spend the least amount of money, is to give it to the richest people. And I think that was very intentional. So we have to spend more money to give it to the community, to give it to local shops, local farmers, local craftsmen. And I think that's what we need to do, is just plan to spend more money, but put it in the right place.
Yes, and I understand that there will be people who cannot do that. And if that is not a realistic thing, I am not suggesting that people like put themselves in bankruptcy to use dollars to resist. However, if some of us are in a position where we could spend a little bit more or spend the same amount and buy a little bit less,
Yeah.
to support businesses that are local, then that's for me one of the best ways that I can actually affect real change.
We're not saying spend less like Trump was saying, you don't need $6. That's not what we're saying at all.
No,
We're just saying that
no.
there's so much, the Target has to sort of trance over people that convinces us we need these things when we probably don't need these things. We can go and spend our money on things that are better for the family, better for the community than the Target tchotchkes.
Actually, it's been named the Target effect, which is like they pioneered impulse shopping throughout the entire store rather than just that last little bit while you're waiting to check out.
Well, they do such a good job, and I know that there are reports out there that talk about exactly what they do, but the scent and the lighting and this illusion of so many things, you have so many of this one thing that all of a sudden you want that, or so many choices. I can't believe my daughter and I laugh when we go to Target now, and it's like twice a year that we go to Target in the US. There are like 50 choices of mac and cheese flavors. It's just like a whole shelf of Oreo flavors and different thicknesses and colors, and it's so much. And I think that's intentional to get us to want to buy. We have to try all the flavors, and we don't really have to.
I recognize that I started to buy less impulse when I was shopping online. And the app for a really long time was pretty good at, you could just go in and be like, I bought this last week. I want this, 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 and this that I bought same thing last week. So there's a lot less impulse buying. And then probably about a year ago, they changed the app so that now every time you put an item in your cart, it pops up with, you might also like this, 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 or that. So they're trying to make the impulse buying available on the app as well.
Sure. Well, that's number 3, increasing digital joy for the guests.
Yeah,
Something like that.
it's not about joy. It's about it, yeah, maximizing the spending.
Right.
So that's one way. The other thing that I've been doing, so we've talked so much about poor Target. And I'm salty at Target because I loved Target so much. And if Target were to really actually put their money where their mouth is and make some of these changes, I would be delighted to go shop at Target again. However, Target is not the only business where this is problematic, where they have too much power and are doing too little for their employees. So what I did was make a list of the places that I could feasibly and reasonably back off my dollars. So I also have stopped shopping at Amazon, which was really painful convenience-wise. But every time I didn't buy something at Amazon, I recognized that I was contributing to hopefully a movement that will get Amazon to pay their employees better or to be more ecologically responsible or politically responsible or financially responsible. So I made a list. Amazon was on my list. I took my Comcast television stations down to basically basic. The 3 or 4 networks is basically all I get on Comcast now. And the only reason I kept it at all is because it's tied to my internet. And it's actually cheaper to have it as a package. But I canceled almost all of my streaming services. So HBO, Paramount, Amazon Prime Video, AMC Plus, Shudder, like all of those ones. I kept Netflix because Netflix. Because Bridgerton is on there. And so many of my other favorite shows are on Netflix. And this is another point that I really want to make. Nobody ought to be shooting for perfection, right? Like, I recognize that I could also make a big impact if I were to cancel my Netflix. And I also know about myself that Netflix is one of the few things that I still have left that keeps me sane when the world is falling to shit. So I am intentionally keeping my Netflix, and I'm okay with it because I'm making good choices in other arenas. And I think that's one of the fallacies. I think that we get into this like all or nothing thinking. Like, if I'm going to use my dollars to make a statement, then I either have to cancel everything and stop like eating, or I might as well just throw it all in and just spend it on everything anyway. Every step makes a difference. And I think that we just have to be, for me, one of the reasons why I like this is because it hurt a little bit.
A little
But
bit,
it wasn't
not a lot.
devastating, right? It changed a lot of my habits and my patterns. It changed how I shop, where I shop, when I shop, how much money I spend. But in the areas where I decided not to, I'm okay with that. Like, we have to just do what we can do. Like I said with the woman in that church. Yeah, you might not ever, as a little tiny church, have millions of dollars to invest in the community, but what you guys are doing for this community is so important, and you're doing things in the community that the big guys can't do. So that's what I want to say is, if people are wanting to try to make this move toward putting your money where your mouth is, do what you can do. And then do just a little bit more so that it hurts just a little bit. And then let the rest of it go. It's okay.
I'd like to make a comment about Netflix because we were able to use Netflix as an actual protest a little while ago when the Melania movie came out in theaters. There was a movement to make Michelle Obama's movie called Becoming the top 10 in Netflix. And it got to the top 10. It wasn't number 1, but it got to top 10. And we used Netflix to make that statement and to make that protest. So I think there's always a way to make it work so that we're not devastating our own lives, but we're making steps in the right direction.
I love that. I didn't hear about that. That's fantastic.
Right.
I'm hoping that if there are people who are listening who are wanting to make a change, using your dollars to make a change is one way that you can do it. Do the best that you can, but don't beat yourself up if you don't get to do all of it. And don't let other people shame you if you don't get to do all of it either.
Coming soon on Super Random Things with those sisters. I've been thinking a lot about clothing, and I'm a big TikTok fan, and I heard a TikTok that said a little piece of jewelry can elevate anything, and that really is a decoration on top of everything. And since my son was born, so about 10 or 12 years, I don't really wear jewelry much because it seems so superfluous, and it seems so, the effort is for some purpose that I'm not seeking to achieve. And so I don't wear jewelry, and I do now because you wear jewelry and you look so pretty, and I want to match that. So I've started to wear jewelry on the podcast, and it just gets me thinking about, what do we do that's for ourselves, and what do we do that's for other people? What do we give up when we have kids because it's not as important? Like when women cut their hair really short when they have babies because babies like to grab hair and pull on it. Tell me your thought process when you get up in the morning, what your day looks like, or what are the things that make you decide what to wear, whether to shower, whether to do your hair, whether to do your makeup, whether to do jewelry and lipstick.
We have 2 days a week that we record. So for sure, those 2 days are going to be full shower, hair, makeup, lipstick, jewelry days. You sort of have to back up a little bit. And I never was a person that wanted to dress nicely. I wanted to dress comfortable. I always have only ever wanted to dress comfortable. And so my entire life, my wardrobe has been for comfort, especially when I had little kids and like when they were really, really little kids. I wear patterns because when they throw up on me, it's a lot easier to hide that you're got spit up on you when you're wearing a pattern. So
I'm only laughing because that is so smart.
oh, it's crazy. Like every single time I wear a solid color, I regret it, even today. Even though I like wearing solid colors, but I regret it. So that's why I started wearing patterns. And then I would say about a year ago, probably last summer, I just decided I was done wearing t-shirts and sweats because I don't have a little kid who spits up on me anymore. And we do podcasts. This is what really shifted for me. I'm starting to do more things in the community. And I realized I had nothing to wear out into the community. And so I bought a couple things and it felt so nice to wear those things that I decided it was time to have an all grown up wardrobe. And so it's material that I wouldn't have typically chosen a year or 5 years ago, but it is actually really super comfortable. But it just makes me feel better. I do this for me. I don't dress nice for other people. I dress for me.
Kiwi says if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.